Fox is the hardest character in Melee. Or is he? Players love to say your character is brain dead. I put in so much more work. But who actually does work the hardest? Well, let's break it all down while trying to annoy as little of the population as possible. So we can truly separate the cavemen from the caveologists. We all love to think that we are the person putting in all of the work, while all our opponents do is grab, back throw, eat hot chip, and down tilt. But in reality, what even makes up a hard-working character? What does it even mean for a character to be hard? Well, as I'll come to learn through writing this script, the answer isn't exactly clear. So let's start by trying our best to define it with the easiest starting point, tech skill. I think when most people think of a hard character, they think of a character that's hard to physically play as. A lot of fast inputs with small frame windows that require a lot of sitting in your basement for hours on end, grinding away, until you can just do it on reflex. Luckily for us, this is a pretty easy category to define, as most characters' tech skill is well fleshed out to the point where we can get a solid grasp on what's needed for them to succeed as a character. Like, the quintessential Fox's tech skill is a lot more intensive than the floatier Jigglypuff, for example. Well, that's it, let's wrap it up. We basically have our list. Easy characters, easy tech, hard characters, hard tech. Let's go home, right? Well, that's how I'm sure a lot of you might define difficulty. Unfortunately for us, I think we have only scratched the surface of what makes a character hard. So hold on to those hats, because from here on I think it's time to get a little abstract. I set out to write this script thinking this would be easy, but I came to a conclusion that I think some characters are hard to play as, or hard to play with. Let me explain. You see, a character like Fox is hard to play as because you have to push a lot of buttons really fast. This would be irrelevant to the character you may be playing against. You could be playing by yourself for all I care, and it would still be as hard to get going. Whereas a character like Bowser, the worst in the game's tier list, would be hard to play with, because you enter that match, and well, you're Bowser. You're slow, your moves suck, everything sucks. So immediately we have an issue. There are two different kinds of difficulty. But does it stop there? What about how hard it is to punish your opponent? I think that also plays into a character's difficulty and is separate from tech skill and your character matchups. So now we have 3 different categories, but it still feels like something's missing. How do I put it into words? What I feel separates each character's defining technique. Neutral feels like too nebulous of a concept, as the character you're playing against often defines how complex the neutral can be. What I'm thinking about is what they have to consider when playing as them. Essentially, how complex they are. Well, that's it. Complexity. How much each character has to be thinking about when playing them. The difference between having multiple good options that you can do in a situation and having the one good option you have. So that's the criteria I decided. Those 4 pieces. The tech skill, the matchups, or the tier list, the punish, and the complexity. Actually, wait, no, there's 5 categories, because a character is actually harder if you're subscribed to the channel, because that means you're a hard worker and you only play hard working characters, and you it just makes me happy. Just number go up. Happy me. So now that we have that worked out, it's time to find out just how hard each character really is. And I'm warning you, tread further in this video with caution, as there may be bad takes ahead. No one's perfect. I just pray I've done the best I can, and if I have judged your character unfairly, I'm sorry. But just remember that I am all-knowing, and your character is probably piss easy. So let's start with the easiest section, the tier list. This is literally just laid out for us, so it's up to me to decide how to split it up. Be able to give it a nice score out of 5. That's what we're going to do for the whole video. I think this way is probably best. I could have split it like this, but then I feel like there's more of a difference in matchup spread between these 2 tiers than between these 2 tiers. So I think it was best to group D and F together, meaning that after the tier list section, this is how the characters rank. We'll come back to this after each section, so for now, let's move on to tech. Now, how have I rated characters in this section is through what I said earlier. How hard is a character to play as if there was no other character on the screen? But it's not just quite as simple, because I want to include character-specific practical tech. So stuff like Dr. Mario might be the 2 on this scale, but when you include things like up B cancels, that's an easy buff up to 3. For our 1s, we have characters like the Puffball twins, who don't have much to do outside of aerial drift, which I'm not 100% sure falls under tech. I think falls more into the range of punishing complexity that we'll talk about later. Can you tell this tier list is getting a bit abstract with its definitions? For 5s, we have characters who are just pressing fucking buttons. Fox, Peach, and Mewtwo are all characters that require a lot of inputs with high precision to function effectively, as well as having things unique to them that make them difficult. So here's how all the characters' ratings have come out for tech. Some I think might be controversial here, maybe like Captain Falcon. I put it as a 2 because when you think about it, there really isn't much technical stuff you have to do outside of things like ledge dash, which most characters have to do, and the stuff that pushes your speed up is going to be in the next section. I think Pikachu and Pichu might also potentially be a 4 because of their up B shenanigans, but I'm not sure how much of that falls into practical application and not just wild theorizing. So adding up the scores, now we can see that the characters that scored high on their matchup difficulty have been taking a bad hit due to the nature of a lot of them just being worse and less technical than their higher tier counterparts. But now the simpler categories are out of the way, let's get on to the punish, so that I can explain my reasoning a bit more. When deciding on the numbers for this ranking segment, I chose to judge based on top level punish. The stuff we see today, rather than any theoretical TAS punish shenanigans you might see on a Twitter post. However, most importantly, this is how hard each character's punish is versus the whole cast. So, for example, while yes, tech chasing is pretty goddamn hard, almost definitely a 5 on the punish difficulty scale, and you will absolutely need it to be able to tech chase a Fox or Falco if you want to play as one of those tech chasing characters at a top level. But we can't pretend a character like Sheik doesn't have a simpler punish than others on a floatier character, which would pull them back from a 5 down to a 4. Also, I want to cover all of my bases, so I made the controversial decision to say that if you get stray hits and no real solid punish on characters, then your punish isn't hard, it's just non-existent. Sorry Bowser mains, your clips on Fox can't carry you here. So all out of the way, here's the reveal for the scores on the punish game. Okay, gonna address the elephant in the room. Yes, Falco's a 5. Yes, I play Falco, so bias beware. But I think Falco is a character that has a punish on the whole characters. And while you do have your guaranteed pillars on some characters to start, if you want to play Falco at a higher level, you need to be a master in DI mix-ups to eke out every inch that you can and hit every bit of fast-paced tech to do it to get that punish. It's hard. I'm sorry, Falco haters, the punish is hard, and that's also why it's so good. I rest my case. We're done talking about Falco. Okay, we're done talking about Falco. Other than the random low-tier mains watching my videos, I'm sure not many of you will have an issue with my low and middling placements. I think Peach and Yoshi have extremely tight and hard punish on a lot of the casts, but lose points for what feels like a very stray hit game against a pretty decent portion of that cast. But they could very well be 5s though. And Icy's handoffs keep a solidly difficult option for you across the cast that you can mess up and need solid knowledge of desyncs and how they work to make that punish work. My other 5, Mewtwo, has punishes on a lot of the casts that require you to play around his painful, to say the least, tail hurt boxes, as well as hit many tight frame windows to juggle the opponents and get creative with tail hitboxes to extend combos on floatier characters. So, assuming you're still here, and my opinions fueled by facts and logic haven't driven you away, here are the new standings after adding the new scores. But I'm gonna keep the top and bottom 5 obscured from now, so if you haven't been paying attention, we can have a nice fun reveal at the end. But I mean, there's no point in keeping Mr. Average obscured. The final category, complexity. How much do you have to think about in relation to your character when you're playing as them? Are you a Bowser player? Sorry big guy, I've been ragging on you a lot today. But I mean, what's a Bowser player thinking about? How effective their next get-up attack from ledge is going to be? When the next use of up B out of shield is going to be? You know what? I'm not sorry, Bowser, actually. You deserve all of the slander. Go race in the Piston Cup or something with that goofy-ass run. Or, on the other side of the spectrum, are you playing Falco or Peach? Am I still biased if I say Peach? Look, more on the mental load to think about in general, to me, comes across as complexity. So, characters that use items generally rate higher for me, as along with your normal moveset, you have this extra tool that you can use in wild and diverse ways. So, along with that, and a diverse moveset where every move is versatile and usable, Falco and Peach generally have a lot to think about when playing. On the same note, a character with double jump cancels are also complex due to them having this tool that every character has, but is able to be used in a fundamentally different and more versatile way, often changing the very way you can use your tools. Spacing also has to get some credit here, as while I consider Zelda to be a rather one-note character, the spacing required often involves a lot on the mental load and dictates how you move around as a result, bumping characters like Marth up as well. And also, characters are complex with very adaptable wave dashes, like Mewtwo and Luigi. I'm honestly pretty happy with where I've put everyone here. For the reasons I mentioned, I can't think of anyone I would change around. So, I mean, if you do disagree with me, and God, I'm sure a lot of you do, let me know in a very non-aggressive and kind way down below. But now, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. The easiest and hardest characters in Melee, the final scores. But really quick, before that, I think doing this tier list gave me a real appreciation for every character in the roster. That every player has to deal with different things and traits about their character that are hard. And while sure, the person I'm playing against might have an easier time in one thing, it's more than likely that I also have an easier time doing something else. So there's probably no point in comparing hardships and getting mad about it, because in the end, Melee is a really hard game. And I think all our characters are hard in their own ways. Yes, even you. But now that I've said that, let's contradict myself and unveil my numerical list that I can point to and tell you to get stuffed when my characters are harder than yours. Without further ado, here we are, your middle runners. Now, there are a lot of tied scores, so that's why you're seeing the tied positions. And honestly, this looks like it's about right, especially according to the image in my brain. Sorry Fox players, your character is confirmed easy. Sorry, not sorry. However, I'm sure how I feel about this will change as we reveal more. So, let's start with the top 5. I'm not going to hold you hostage, I'm sure you know, so here they are. I don't think this is that crazy, and in fact quite nice to see, except how did this guy sneak in there? I went back and looked at the numbers, and I can't really justify in my head a change anywhere. So, I guess here he is. Ness, your second hardest character? Maybe I am dumb. Mewtwo being the hardest character lines up with, I think, a lot of what people think. This guy is just hard for not much reward. And while his tier placement might now be a little outdated after Leffen's performances recently, even going up a tier would still land him in first place. So congrats Mewtwo players, I think. You're the hardest working Melee players out there. Now, onto the mean stuff. Who are the easiest characters in the game? Okay, I just have to say this. While making this list, I did not think that Puff would be tied with Bowser at the end. But I really don't think I can put her up in any category. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of respect for Puff players. I literally suck ass at that character. And I used to be a Marth main as well. Yet here he is. So, am I happy with this result? I'm going to say no. Because I mean, it's done the worst thing that it possibly could. justify the opinions of low tier players. Thank you as always for watching, and if you want to support the channel, my Patreon is in the description, where you can get access to bloopers, early videos, and my Patreon-only Discord for as low as $1. They would really support the channel, and I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, thanks to my lovely supporters who already do: Tingly Jungle, Jarek Ford, Dan Landon, Biss, Zoffers, Jack Cahoon, and Mitchell Skaggs. You're all amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.